hearing of the substantive appeal to June 25, 2026. The appeal was filed by the Accord Party and Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke, challenging the decision of the Federal High Court in Abuja. Justice Peter Lifo on Monday ordered INEC to deregister the African Democratic Congress, ADC, the Action Alliance, AA, Accord Party, AP, Senate Labour Party, ZLP, and Action People's Party, APP, for non-compliance with Section 225 of the Nigerian Constitution of 1999 by not producing any elected official in the last election. Well, that was our major focus on the program yesterday, and we are continuing today with the same set of guests that came on the show yesterday. ADC chieftain and political analyst Ibrahim Onimise, Patrice Akwara, country director, New Africa Rising Initiative. And after that conversation with the guests we had from yesterday, we would also move to a lighter mood much later on the program as we count down to the Igbo Nwere Madu Awards 2026. The awards were conceived to honor and celebrate distinguished men and women who have made positive, impactful contributions to society, notably in business, trade, and investment. You look at politics as well, education, entertainment, religion, culture, and tradition, humanitarian service, and community development. Persons described as exceptional friends of Indigbo have not been left out of the awards. The organizers say the award, built to hold next on Friday in Abuja, are aimed at encouraging Nigerians, both Igbos and persons of other extractions, to make deliberate and meaningful contributions to the society. And joining us to explain this in detail are two chiefs and members of the Igbo Nwere Madu High Chief, Chim Mankpam Ayankpa, Chief and Chief Kalu Chijoke. And those chiefs would be joining us on the program to give us details of what this award indeed means and who is to benefit. Now, on your part, remember that you can be a part of the program, and that will be by sending your views and comments to all our social media handles on Facebook, X, Instagram, as well as on YouTube. We are at Africa Independent TV, and this is key so that you could stay up to date with the latest news from around the globe. Talking about latest news, please join me now on the World News Desk for Kakaaki World News. You're welcome to the World News on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Thank you for joining us. We start from the UK this morning, where a Russian warship fired warning shot near a UK-registered yacht on Tuesday. The incident, which happened at around 11:40 a.m. between the Isle of Wight and Normandy, involved in the Russian frigate, the Admiral Grigorovich, and the small motorless yacht had drifted towards the warship in foggy conditions. After setting off from the UK, the Russian vessel fired warning shot after sounding an audible warning to get the yacht to move out of its way. It is understood there were no injuries or damage to the yacht. A Ministry of Defense spokesperson said investigations on the report of an incident in the channel are ongoing. British authorities received a report from the yacht's occupant that the Russian vessel had fired warning shots from around 500 yards away, a relatively near distance by the standards of sea travel. The incident happened around 20 nautical miles South Africa, south of the Isle of Wight, outside UK territorial waters. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has expressed gratitude to G7 leaders for what he describes as strong ideas on how to force Russia into peace, following productive discussions at the G7 summit. Speaking after the meeting, Zelensky praised the continued support of Ukraine from world leaders, while former U.S. President Donald Trump reiterated that Russia should make a deal. The G7 Ukraine meeting brought together leaders from France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Canada, Germany, the United States, Japan, the European Council, and the European Commission to discuss the next steps in supporting Ukraine. As Russia's attack continues, leaders emphasized the need to strengthen and expand support for Ukraine. This includes providing additional air defense missiles, granting licenses for local production, helping the country endure another difficult winter, and increasing pressure on Russia through coordinated international actions. World leaders agreed that the international community must remain united and ensure that Russia is never allowed to normalize or legitimize its war against Ukraine. Leaders of the group of 7 nations opened key discussions in France on Tuesday, focusing on the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky joined the summit as host President Emmanuel Macron sought to strengthen international support for Kyiv.
The meeting comes shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a preliminary agreement aimed at ending the conflict between the United States and Iran. The breakthrough has shifted global attention back towards efforts to address Russia's war in Ukraine, which has continued for more than 4 years. Macron indicated that he would encourage Trump to maintain support for Ukraine and increase pressure on Moscow to pursue peace negotiations. The discussions followed a large-scale Russian attack involving hundreds of drones and missiles that killed civilians and caused damage in several Ukrainian cities. Trump arrived at the summit, highlighting the Iran agreement as a major diplomatic achievement. He argued that the agreement could improve stability across the Middle East while helping lower oil prices and strengthen global financial markets. Despite welcoming the progress on Iran, several allies remain concerned about Washington's recent foreign policy decisions. Differences persist over tariffs, NATO commitments, military coordination, and broader questions surrounding international security cooperation. Trump said his next focus would be advancing peace efforts involving Ukraine and Russia, as well as seeking an end to violence in Lebanon. He revealed that he had recently spoken with both Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin and expressed optimism that diplomatic progress may still be possible.
President Donald Trump has announced that a preliminary agreement aimed at ending the war with Iran has already been signed. Speaking at the G7 summit in France, he said additional details of the accord would be made public in the coming days.
Senior U.S. officials revealed that the agreement was signed electronically and will be formally finalized during a ceremony in Geneva on Friday. The arrangement extends a ceasefire for 60 days, while negotiators work towards a broader and more permanent settlement. Among the first outcomes expected from the agreement is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for global oil shipments. American officials said technical discussions regarding Iran's nuclear program will begin immediately as part of the next phase of negotiations. The agreement reportedly includes commitments related to ending military operations across multiple fronts. However, U.S. officials stressed that Israeli troop withdrawals from Lebanese territory banditry and not conditions of the current framework. Iranian officials welcomed the suspension of military operations but remained cautious about Washington's intentions. Tehran described the arrangement as an important step towards reducing tensions while emphasizing that deep mistrust between the two countries remains. International leaders broadly welcomed the breakthrough, viewing it as an opportunity to stabilize the region and reduce risk to global energy supplies. Western governments also reiterated that any long-term agreement must ensure Iran does not obtain nuclear weapons while allowing verification of compliance.
The European Union has officially launched accession negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova, marking a significant milestone in both countries' effort to join the bloc. The move begins a lengthy process requiring major political, legal, and economic reforms.
Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Taras Chaka attended a conference in Luxembourg where talks formally commenced. He described European unity as essential in confronting ongoing security challenges posed by Russia's actions against Ukraine and the wider region. The accession process comes while Ukraine continues defending itself against Russia's invasion. Ukrainian leaders view eventual EU membership as both a strategic security guarantee and a symbol of their country's commitment to deeper integration with the West. Progress had previously been blocked by Hungary under former Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whose government frequently opposed closer ties between Ukraine and the European Union. That obstacle was removed after Hungary's new leadership agreed to lift its veto on membership discussions. Negotiations will cover 35 policy chapters, ranging from trade and taxation to judicial reform and anti-corruption measures. Monday's opening discussions focused on key areas, including the rule of law, democratic institutions, public procurement, and financial oversight. European officials described the start of talks as a major achievement, while stressing that membership will depend on meeting strict standards. Although some governments favor accelerating Ukrainians' part in the bloc, the EU continues to insist that accession must be based on demonstrated reforms and readiness.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that Israeli forces will remain in occupied areas of southern Lebanon despite emerging ceasefire arrangement linked to the U.S.-Iran agreement. His comment highlights continuing tensions over the future of the region following recent diplomatic breakthroughs.
Speaking at a news conference, Netanyahu said Israeli troops would stay in what he described as a security buffer zone for as long as necessary. Israel currently controls territory beyond the Litani River following years of conflict with Hezbollah and military operations that expanded into southern Lebanon. The remarks could complicate implementation of the broader ceasefire framework expected to be formally signed later this week. Reports indicate the agreement includes provisions aimed at ending military operations across several fronts, including Lebanon. Netanyahu also pledged that Israel would continue acting against groups aligned with Iran and maintain vigilance against future threats. His position mirrors earlier comments by Defense Minister Israel Katz, who similarly rejected setting a timetable for withdrawal from occupied territories. The announcement follows an Israeli strike near Beirut that reportedly killed 3 people and raised concerns about the stability of ceasefire negotiations. The attack drew attention because it occurred shortly after the signing of the agreement linked to ending the Iran conflict. While acknowledging occasional disagreements with U.S. President Donald Trump, Netanyahu argued that Israel's campaign against Iran had achieved significant strategic objectives. He maintained that preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons remains a central Israeli security priority, regardless of diplomatic developments.
European Union member states have failed to reach agreement on imposing sanctions against Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben. The deadlock emerged during discussions among foreign ministers, with unanimity required before any restrictions can be adopted.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kakaaki said several member states supported economic measures against the far-right minister, but the proposal did not secure the necessary consensus. She did not publicly identify the countries that opposed the move, although reports suggest Germany, Austria, and the Czech Republic were among them. Ben-Gvir has faced growing criticism following the detention of activists aboard the global Samud flotilla, which attempted to reach Gaza last month. Footage circulating online appeared to show the minister mocking detained activists, sparking condemnation from several European governments. Despite the failure to sanction Ben-Gvir directly, pressure on Israel within the European Union continues to grow. Many member states are now seeking options to restrict trade involving goods produced in Israeli settlements located in the occupied West Bank. Kakaaki said she would ask the European Commission to prepare possible trade measures ahead of the next Foreign Affairs Council meeting. The proposals would focus on limiting imports linked to settlements considered illegal under international law. The debate reflects broader tensions within Europe over policy toward Israel, as investigations proceed in several countries concerning allegations connected to activists detained during the flotilla incident. The EU remains Israel's largest trading partner, making any future economic measures particularly significant.
8 people have died after a U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress bomber crashed shortly after takeoff from Edwards Air Force Base in California. The aircraft was conducting a routine test mission when the accident occurred.
Military officials said the crash happened at approximately 11:20 local time and produced a massive plume of smoke visible across the surrounding area. Emergency crews rushed to the scene and quickly began search and recovery operations. Initial assessments indicated that the accident was not survivable. Authorities have not yet released details about the cause of the crash, and investigations are expected to continue for some time. The B-52 Stratofortress has been a key component of U.S. military operations since the 1950s, known for its long range and heavy payload capacity. The aircraft remains one of the most recognizable bombers in the American arsenal. Following the crash, Edwards Air Force Base suspended airfield operations and diverted incoming aircraft. Officials also halted non-commercial visitor access to allow emergency personnel to focus fully on response efforts. Lawmakers from across the United States expressed condolences to the victims and their families. Messages of support also praised first responders and military personnel involved in rescue and recovery operations at the remote desert installation.
A British court has convicted 2 men over a series of arson attacks targeting properties and a vehicle connected to Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The verdict followed a lengthy trial examining incidents that occurred over several days in May last year.
Ukrainian national Roman Lavrinovich and Romanian citizen Stanislav Kapiuk were found guilty of conspiracy to commit arson. Prosecutors said the attacks targeted a former residence used by Starmer, a property in which he held an ownership interest, and a vehicle previously associated with it. Lavrinovich was additionally convicted on charges relating to property damage by fire and recklessly endangering lives. A third defendant, Petro Pochinok, was acquitted after jurors found insufficient evidence to support the allegations against him. Investigators told the court that Lavrinovich had been recruited through Telegram by an individual using alias L Money. Prosecutors said he was promised cryptocurrency payments in exchange for carrying out the attacks and providing video evidence afterward. Counter-terrorism officials said there was no evidence that the suspects knew the properties were linked to the Prime Minister. Authorities also stated that no proof had emerged showing the operation was directly sponsored by a hostile foreign government. However, separate media reporting alleged the attacks formed part of a broader campaign connected to Russian interests. Russia has denied any involvement, while British authorities continue to focus on the criminal actions of those convicted and the unidentified online organizer.
The British government has raised fresh concerns over a proposed rescue package for Thames Water, bringing the country's largest water provider closer to possible temporary nationalization. Environment Secretary Emma Reynolds formally challenged the €10 billion plan submitted by the company's lenders, citing concerns about its impact on customers and environmental protections.
Thames Water, which serves around 16 million people across London and southern England, has been under financial pressure for several years amid mounting debt and criticism over operational failures. The company has faced scrutiny over sewage spills, leaking infrastructure, and regulatory breaches that have damaged public confidence. A consortium known as London and Valley Water has offered to write off £9.4 billion of the utilities debt and inject billions in new funding. In exchange, the lenders are seeking greater flexibility regarding future environmental penalties while proposing a long-term investment plan extending through 2030. Government officials argue the rescue proposal does not provide sufficient safeguards for consumers or environmental standards. Reports indicate ministers are particularly concerned that the arrangement could place excessive financial burdens on customers while failing to guarantee meaningful reforms. Regulator Ofwat is currently reviewing the proposal and is expected to issue a decision later this year. Without approval of a rescue package, Thames Water could exhaust its available funds within months, increasing the risk of insolvency. Should the company collapse, the government could place it into a special administration regime, allowing appointed managers to maintain essential water and sewage services. Thames Water and its lenders continue to argue that nationalization would increase costs, create uncertainty, and delay urgently needed improvements.
Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Jimoh Ibrahim, has renewed calls for Africa to be granted permanent representation on the United Nations Security Council, insisting that the continent's long-standing demand now enjoys broad international support and should be reflected in ongoing reform effort. Speaking during the informal plenary meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiations on the question of equitable representation and increase in the membership of the Security Council at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Ambassador Ibrahim said Nigeria has been actively engaged in regional and global efforts aimed at advancing a more representative, effective, and inclusive Security Council, stressing that the Council's efforts and current structure is neither fixed nor immutable. Ambassador Ibrahim said Nigeria aligns firmly with the position of the African Group and other reform advocates seeking expansion of both the permanent and non-permanent categories of Security Council membership.
Current structure of the Council is not fit for the 21st century, and that reforms are inevitable for the Council's effectiveness, efficiency, and legitimacy. It is on this premise that we put on record in the stronger terms two concerns that must be addressed before the 81st sessions begins to work on the consolidation model. First is the categories of membership, the descriptions of support for expansion in both the permanent and non-permanent categories, and the view of significant numbers of delegates does not accurately reflect the distribution of the position in the room. Africa Group, the Group for LG 69 Group, and the Arab Group, and the CACOM collectively represent the majority in the IGM participants. The retention is the element.
He emphasized that meaningful reform of the Security Council must reflect contemporary geopolitical realities and ensure greater equity in global governance, particularly for Africa, which remains the only continent without permanent representation on the Council. The Nigerian security forces have scored a major victory against terrorism in Kogi State. This follows the elimination of notorious bandit kingpin Kachala Ibrahim Batiju. The operation not only neutralized Kachala, but also crushed a mass kidnapping plot targeting students in Kogi State, north-central Nigeria, according to official government sources.
Kogi State has for some time now been ravaged by kidnappings, with different gangs hiding in the thick forest of the confluent states. Deadly attacks on commuters and transporters have been common, and hundreds have been adopted along the different federal roads crisscrossing the states. One of Nigeria's most wanted kidnapped kingpins, Kachala Ibrahim Badijo, was said to have been operating in the area with a ground plan of a large-scale student adoption around the Kababono area. According to officials of the Kogi State government familiar with the operation, security forces using sophisticated intelligence secretly identified the coordinates and relocated vulnerable students writing their WAEC exams just before launching a decisive ambush. During a fierce-gun battle, troops eliminated the bandit kingpin. Subsequent clearance operations by the Nigerian Army's 12th Brigade, led by Brigadier General Kasim Sidi, recovered over 15 bodies of the bandits. Badijo's remains have been exhumed for forensic analysis. At the briefing at the Office of the National Security Advisor, Governor Usman Ododo praised President Bola Tinubu's security leadership, stating that federal initiatives are yielding measurable results. He pledged to support federal efforts in stamping out criminals from Kogi State. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu hailed the operation as a major milestone and a breakthrough for national security. However, the state government is urging citizens to remain vigilant and report suspicious activities to security agencies. Tehumba Akaya, AIT News, Lokoja.
In reaction to that, President Bola Tinubu has praised the Nigerian armed forces and security agencies for successfully neutralizing notorious bandit leader Ibrahim Bastuji during an operation in Kogi State, describing the development as a major victory in the fight against insecurity. The president said the operation dealt a significant blow to criminal networks responsible for banditry, kidnappings and attacks on communities in Kogi and neighboring state. He expressed confidence that the feat would help restore peace and reassure residents. According to a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu congratulated the troops on what he called a decisive milestone, stressing that Nigeria would not cede any part of its territory to criminal element. The president also commended security personnel for rescuing Hajia Amina Rabe Abubakar, widow of the late former Chief of Defense Information, General Rabe Abubakar, retired, describing the operation as a demonstration of professionalism, effective intelligence coordination, and courage. He said the safe rescue of the retired general's widow brought relief to her family and the nation, while applauding the officers and men involved for their bravery and dedication to protecting lives. President Tinubu reaffirmed its administration's commitment to providing the armed forces with the resources, training, and support required to combat banditry, kidnapping, and other violent crimes, while urging Nigerians to continue assisting security agencies with timely and credible information. Members of the national and state Parole boards have been charged to strengthen coordination of Parole administration nationwide, monitor implementation processes, address appeals, as well as complaints from offenders. The boards were also urged to address appeals from victims and recommend measures to enhance the effectiveness of the Parole system. The Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, Sylvester He gave the charge during the inauguration of reappointed members for a new 3-year tenure and unveiled information, education and communication materials aimed for deepening public awareness of non-custodial measures across the country.
The Nigerian Correctional Service Act of 2019, which provides the parole system, permits early and conditional release of inmates before the completion of their jail term. The Controller General of Nigerian Correctional Service, Sylvester Nwakuche, authorized the first release of inmates in Abia State Custodial Center who exhibited exceptional good conduct and have shown evidence of moving away from antisocial vices that brought them to the correctional center.
The Commission reaffirms our belief that correctional institutions should not merely confine offenders, but should prepare them for successful reintegration into the society. The parolees being released today has passed through a rigorous assessment process and has satisfied all legal and administrative requirements for parole.
Chairman of the Abia State Parole Board, Justice Obisike Orji, described the landmark achievement as the realization of the most progressive reforms in Nigeria's justice delivery system.
Now we can begin to expect to have that amongst our inmates. If it catches on, a number of the people who are staying here will not be there. There will be a drop. And with the drop, the cost of maintaining them, you can see is a spiral effect.
Those that were done, that they looked at the conditions, both in custody, what they have done here, and also the potential of what is going to happen outside.
The released inmates receive various support, including vocational tools like sewing machines to help them earn a legitimate livelihood. Opeita Ago, AIT News.
And that's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Thank you for staying with us. Up next on the program is Kakaaki Business.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should sit back and go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the President.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere. But insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is in it for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something million MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
All right, in the meantime, we'll take more stories and hopefully we'll bring you Kakaaki business before the program ends. We're looking at IGP talking tough on banditry as the fight against banditry in Zamfara State has claimed another painful toll. 3 police anti-bomb officers were killed while responding to an explosive threat during ongoing security operations. As colleagues and families gathered to honor the fallen officers, Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu declared that security agencies would intensify pressure on bandits and other violent criminals operating in the state.
The battle against banditry in Zamfara State is increasingly complicated by growing threats of improvised explosive devices planted along roads, farmlands, and vulnerable communities. For months, police explosive ordnance disposal officers have worked to detect and neutralize those deadly devices, helping to protect residents and prevent further casualties. But on Monday, the danger faced became tragically clear. 3 members of Police Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit lost their lives while responding to an explosive threat in line of duty. Their deaths underscore the risks confronting security personnel on the front lines of their fight against banditry and violence extremism. At the Zamfara State Police Command Headquarters, family members, colleagues, and government officials gathered to pay their final respect. Representing Governor Dauda Lawan, the Secretary to the State Government, Abakar Nakwada, reaffirmed the state no-negotiation policy.
Victory is surely guaranteed for us in the long run.
The Zamfara State Police Commissioner, Mohammed Bello, also disclosed intelligence indicating increasing collaboration between armed bandit group and Boko Haram elements operating within the region. Addressing mourners and officers, Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu vowed that the sacrifice of the fallen officers will not be in vain, assuring Nigerians that security agencies will sustain pressure on bandits and other violent criminals until peace is fully restored.
To all officers and men here and across the state, remain resolute, professional, and disciplined. Do not be demoralized by the loss of our colleagues. Instead, let their blood fuel our determination.
For the families left behind, the loss is deeply personal. But for security agencies battling troubled communities, the sacrifice of the fallen officers stands as a reminder of the heavy price being paid in pursuit of lasting peace and security. Damina Yusuf, AIT News, Gusau.
All right, may the souls of the departed officers rest in peace, and eventually may we win as a nation the fight against insurgency and terrorism around us. From there, we'll go to a political story. We're looking at political shifting alliances. And this is because when you hear of breakups, Most times you think of romantic relationships, but in politics, breakups are even more messy and common, and sometimes they can be quite messy. And this is why they say that trust and loyalty, they are expensive commodities in politics. And for Nollywood actor turned politician, for example, Kenneth Okonkwo, it has been a tale of shifting alliances. The latest being his political breakup with Atiku Abubakar. We have our correspondent, Ogeihe Mekpen, that reviews Okonkwo's history of dramatic political realignment.
Today we have only two parties in Nigeria, APC and others.
In 2022, Kenneth Okonkwo dumped the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, citing anti-people policies. He quickly pitched his tent with the Labour Party, becoming a fierce spokesperson for Peter Obi's presidential bid. He energized crowds. He defended the movement on national television. But after the 2023 elections, the tune shifted. By May 2024, in a surprise move, Okonkwo dumped Peter Obi, accusing him of failing to protect the people's mandate. He slammed Obi's handling of the internal Labour Party crisis. For the obedient movement, it felt like a betrayal, but Okonkwo had moved on. But it didn't take long before he re-emerged. By early 2025, he joined a major opposition coalition to challenge the ruling party for 2027. That coalition birthed a new alliance under the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Political heavyweights like former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Senate President David Mark led the charge. Peter Obi joined briefly too. It looked like a united opposition. Okonkwo was confident. He predicted victory. He defended the ADC even after Peter Obi walked away from the alliance. Okonkwo faced heavy backlash from Obi's loyalists who accused him of political opportunism. Still, he stood his ground. But now, the script has flipped again. In a dramatic turnaround, Okonkwo has distanced himself from Atiku's Abubakar's camp. The breaking point, he says, is Atiku's choice of Rotimi Amechi from the South as Atiku's running mate. Okonkwo's argument is straightforward. The Southeast has been sidelined yet again. For him, this is about regional equity, yet critics have questioned his claim. If it is about the Southeast as he claims, why did he switch on Obi and they followed up with persistent media attacks on his kinsmen, which have led to recent threats of lawsuits? Okonkwo insists it is a principled stand for justice, but some of his followers remain skeptical. Nigeria's political environment is highly fluid, leaving observers to clearly see the constant shifting of alliances while remaining uncertain if these realignments are driven by personal or public interest. Ogi Ihimekmen, AIT News, Abuja.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Well, that was an interesting package right there, and political breakups here and there. Well, if Kenneth Okonkwo indeed insists that he's breaking up again with Atiku Abubakar for his choice of Rotimi Amechi because he's a South-South person and not a South-East person, as he expected. Indeed, maybe Peter Obi is South-Northern, something like that, if that ever exists, or was he indeed expecting to be picked since he himself is a Southeasterner? Well, it's important that all of these rules cut across. His point, ever valid, but maybe another point will be valider if anything like that exists. All right, everyone. It promises to be an interesting show this morning on Kakaaki, the African Voice. We're almost done an hour, 2 more and some minutes to go, and then we'll call it a day. So in the meantime, we'll take you to our social intervention segment, and when we come back, we'll look at newspaper review. And looking at the papers this morning, we have an interesting story to talk about, which would be that a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old grandchildren are impersonating as bandits. So they called this woman Mrs. Esther to say, "We are bandits, give us money or we come for you." Moral decadence. They couldn't think of anything else but to say they are bandits. That's one of the stories we'll be reviewing this morning when it's 7 a.m. Stay with us.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Jolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today I'll be speaking to you on problem-solving skills, fundamentals for transforming organizations. You can never, ever amount to anything outstanding until you have mastered the act of solving problems, and not even just solving problems, you've mastered the act of providing solutions to problems that will not just disappear. The bigger the problem you can handle, the more valuable you become. I have never seen anybody who has become successful in this life who lived a life of ease. I mean, everyone that has become amazing, has become sought after. They've been individuals who have been able to develop their minds in such a way that they can deal with very challenging problems, and they provide solutions. And in their communities, people come to them daily to help them solve one problem or another. So you need political class, a political class that is driven by the pursuit of solving problems and creating solutions within different sectors like never before. You need even non-political actors that would also master the act of solving problems. So whenever a lot of problems are in the environment, I have seen a lot of leaders, when they encounter problems, what do? They are afraid. They freeze. They are confused. Some people fall into depression just by encountering problems. But that's not how it works. So how do you become a better problem solver? It's a question you must ask yourself. First thing you must do is to define the problem clearly. Spend time, understand what the issue is. What is the major challenge? Because the moment you're able to understand what the challenge is, then the next thing you will do, which is the second thing, is to separate facts from feelings. It's not about how you feel. It's about what is real. So what do you know about the issue? For sure, what do you know about it? What are you assuming? What are you feeling? Don't confuse the three.
What you know is different from what you feel. Third, generate multiple solutions. Don't stop at the first idea. That's why you must learn how to brainstorm. What are the different ways we can solve major problems? Write them on paper. Generate questions that can provoke very important responses. Very critical important. The fourth element is that evaluate your options. So what are the pros and the cons of each of the solutions? And then what are the risk factors that are available and what are the costs? There is the opportunity cost. What is the scale of preference? I'm talking about how to be able to identify yourself as a major problem solver so that you can become amazing in providing results. The fifth element is that decide and act. Once a solution is in view, the next thing is action. That's why those leaders who have action mentality culture, they are those who make things happen. Analysis without action is paralysis. So make a decision and move forward. You can always adjust. And finally, in this context, is learn from it. After you have solved it, ask, what did we learn? How do we prevent this in the future? That is the mindset of somebody who is ready to sustain solution provision in this day and time. Be that person. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why your child is left-handed? Now, if both of you as parents are left-handed, there's a good chance that 50% of your children will be left-handed too. But if neither of you are lefties, the probability shrinks to only about 2%. Now, whether you're a left or right-handed parent, you need to recognize the opportunities and as well the challenges of raising a left-handed child. Make left-handedness feel like a blessing instead of a curse by simply treating it as one thing that makes your child distinct and special. Now, usually, if the left hand is more dominant than the right hand, it simply means that the right side of the brain is more dominant than the left side, which favors intuition, emotion, imagination, creativity, and as well holistic thinking. So if your left-handed child is artistic, for instance, creative and imaginative, is perfectly okay. Now, thinking outside the box is a specialty of lefties, which translates well to problem solving at school and even beyond. Now, so when they're young, you have, as a parent, the ability to help them develop both hands. So whichever they choose, stick with it. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers
fade after the headlines.
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something million MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
All right, everyone, good morning again. If you're joining us for the first time today, this is Kakaaki, and it's 7 a.m. That means it's newspaper o'clock over here. We're not doing this alone. It's Wednesday, so we have our reviewer, senior editor with this day newspaper, Iyobosa Unwajorin. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Looking good this morning.
Thank you. Also, we have columnist with Leadership newspaper, who is also our senior journalist, Simon Reef. Musa, good morning.
Good morning, Renat. Good to meet you. Good to meet you.
All right, let's cross over to the pages of the newspapers this morning. We're starting with This Nigeria, and it says, ADC, 4 parties get lifeline. Appeal court stays execution of deregistration judgment. For details of that, you'll find it on page 2 of This Nigeria today. To the Daily Monitor, same story, says, order to deregister ADC for other parties. Appeal court suspends execution of judgment, says Justice Lifu exhibited judicial rascality by going ahead to hear and make the order. That's one of the riders. From there, we go to New Telegraph. It says deregistration of parties. Justice Lifu's action and affront to court hierarchy. That's appeal court talking on pages 3, 5, 6, and 27 for details of that on New Telegraph. Over to Daily Global now. It says appeal court suspends execution of judgment against ADC for others. Still talking about same story from Daily Global to Standard Times. It says appeal court slams Justice Lifu, halts the registration of ADC, called other political parties. And not a different story. Leadership leads us this way. Due registration judgment, ADC accord 3 orders get reprieve as appeal court halts execution. Lower court judge lambasted for delivery delivering judgment despite pending order. Page 7 on leadership has details of that. To gwg.ng now, Atiku Adeleke bounced back as appeal court stops deregistration of ADC others. Observer's Times, the same story too, says Court of Appeal halt deregistration of Accord ADC others. And a writer says slams trial judge for judicial indiscipline over flouted orders. Judiciary itself is now on trial. Atiku in response. Page 1 of Observer's Time has details. Let's see how the authority takes us. Defect and lose your seat. That's NDC talking. Party signs packed with candidate. To Security Matters, Daily Asset says gunmen attack NIPSS, kill 2 soldiers. Police officer. Tinubu approves 1,000 forest guard for Katsina. Makinde restate commitment to rescue abducted. Page 2 has details on Daily Asset. Daily Newscraft then says, fear grips Plateau resident as terrorists attack NIPPS. 3 security personnel die. Investigation begins. Institute reaffirms commitment to safety, security. That's on page 2. To the Daily Sun, it says federal government moves to tighten security at borders as gunmen attack NIPPS. NSA speaks on challenges of porous borders. Akpabio seeks stronger border security through technology, regional ties. One more writer says troops rescue 7 kidnapped farmers in Sokoto. Page 4, page 6 have details on Daily Sun. To the Nigerian Pilot, it says Nigeria, nowhere is safe. Gunmen attack NIPSS, Kuru near Jos, kill 3 security personnel. Plateau State Police Command confirm NIPPS attack took place in early hours of Tuesday. For more on that, kindly check page 8 of Nigerian Pilot this Wednesday. It's midweek, so Al Jazeera has its midweek edition, and it says, family arraigned for impersonating bandit. Father, children, grandchildren accused in Ogun. Page 9 has that story. Let's not talk some money. Looking at the business NG, it says, petrol marketers, Nigerians say Dangote 75 Naira price cut falls short, demand further reductions. It also says cooking gas prices may fall to 900 Naira per kilogram soon. That's NAPGAM speaking. The Whistler then says, rice self-sufficiency drive falters as Nigeria import 3.4 million tons. Production gap widens to 3.5 million tons, over 60% of rice mills idle. Page 9 has more on that, and you could see the graphics and data statistics put out by that paper just below is citing why local production is faltering, shrinking farmlands, the idle mills, the farmers' dilemma, citing insecurity as key in producing areas. All right, from there we look at Daily Independent. Decreased fuel import drive, forex stability, strengthen Naira. It also says textile revival requires more than fabric import curbs. That's operators talking right there. From there, we look at Nigerian News Direct. It says IMF flags payment infrastructure gaps as fuel for Nigeria's stablecoin boom. Urges CBN to sustain monetary policy reforms tightening. If you check page 3 this morning of Nigerian News Direct, you would see that, and 18 whole papers reviewed right there. I would always tell you, you can't find this anywhere else, and that's why you should always join us on Kakaaki for newspaper review at least. All right, we'll come to the studio to bring in our guests, starting from Iyobosa, and the stories that led the political ones, ADC, 4 parties get lifeline. This Nigeria Observer's Times, Daily Global, GWG.ng, Leadership, News, all of them, they have this news story. So how would you look at this?
Well, the stories that led most of the papers today, I expected that judgment from the Court of Appeal because I don't know what prepared the Justice, what do you call him now? Justice Lifu. I don't know what prepared him to give that kind of judgment because he knew very well that there was a Court of Appeal order, restraining him, from going ahead with the trial pending the resolutions of the matter in the Court of Appeal. Even when the case came up 2 days ago, the lawyer of the defendant drew his attention to that issue. He told him, look, my lord, this case is pending before the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal has ordered you to stop trial pending the resolution or determinations of that matter. The man said, yes, I'm aware. And he said he's aware, that he was aware, and went ahead to give that judgment. And for me, I think the judge was under the influence of certain things. I don't, actually, as a matter of fact, I don't know what prepared him. Because if a judge, can disobey the court order of a superior court, then there's something fishy that most members of the public are not even aware. You see, it's been part of what we'll be saying on this studio, that the judiciary has become part of the problem in our society. Some judges give conflicting orders. Court of equal jurisdictions give conflicting orders, and thereby undermining the democratic process. If you have a judge that is asked to, examine issues, and while he was doing that, the defendant went to Court of Appeal and said, look, stop this trial pending the resolutions of the appeal that was before the Court of Appeal. And you went ahead and gave judgment, as if that was not enough. I think, like the Court of Appeal judges said yesterday, they were unanimous in their decision that a trial judge in the High Court, if he can disobey the Court of Appeal order, then that judge has no business being in the bench. I think the Nigeria Bar Association has also alluded to that. I think we should be very careful so that we don't undermine this democratic process. Because by doing that, you are indirectly discrediting the electoral process. Because at the end of the day, if there is a winner, people will say, but we told you that right from the beginning there was an attempt to rig the election. Who says that people cannot win the election without stopping other people from contesting? And people keep on accusing the president, keep on accusing the APC. I must say that the president might not be aware, but those who are working for him, who want to make the president happy, they believe that the only way they can do that is to begin to undermine other people, from contesting. By doing that, you are not creating a level playing field for everybody to contest. If at the end of the day, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wins that election, people will say, but we told you that from the beginning that the process was not free and fair. I think other democratic institutions should be very careful, not to undermine our democratic space, because what they are doing is not helpful for our democratic space. It's not helpful at all. It's not.
All right, let's look at the way that one of our reviewers, GWG.ng, puts it, that Atiku Adeleke bounced back as appeal court stops deregistration of ADC and all this. If we look at it, Simon Reef, would you say that it is Uhuru yet or not yet Uhuru? Is this freedom?
Well, I think I agree with what they say, because when actually I read that the court had stopped, had moved towards the deregistration of the ADC and other four, the whole insinuation was, is APC, is Tinubu again coming after them? But for the appeal court to come now and said no, and that there was also an order given to the court, to the judge, not to go ahead with the case before, because it was already before the appeal court. And the man went ahead. That is shy disobedience. It's not just enough to just stop him, but he should be punished. Because if you don't punish such a judge, you have to create a kind of an example for others in the future to see and do what is needful. So I see the intervention of the appellate court as very welcoming, and then showing a sign that perhaps if all things go well, I think we won't have a problem. You know, ahead of 2027 polls, insinuations are so rife. But I think everybody should be given the level playing field that is needful so that they can contest these polls, so whether we like it or not.
Say that, oh, this is the hand of Tinubu in play, or hands of the people loyal to
Tinubu,
who are trying to please him. They've also said just yesterday when the appeal court intervened in this that this is just some my hand no day kind of thing. Like we want you to believe that I'm not responsible for this, and then eventually. But also, if we look at the reason, the section 225 of the Constitution that says you have to at least win an election as a political party for you not to risk being deregistered, is the court of the lower court not being legal in attending to this? This is the law. If you cannot produce a winner from any of the elections, you are not fit to be a political party. Is that not what the basis is?
I agree with you, but let's look at this matter based on the papers filed by the Independent and National Electoral Commissions, INEC. The INEC also filed a case before the trial judge. I said, look, opposing the motion moved by some people who want some certain party to deregister. And if you look at that paper that the INEC filed, they said, look, those parties they are saying should be deregistered meet the constitutional requirements. So which party are they talking about, for example? I give an example. For example, the Zenith party, is it Zenith? They call it
Zenith Labour Party.
Zenith Labour parties, for example.
Nwachukwu.
Yeah, it's one of the parties that they accuse. And that party won several elections in many local governments, and even state House of Assembly. So if you look at the paper filed by the INEC, they said, look, this party you are talking about has, are not restrained by the constitutional provisions, that they all meet the constitutional requirement of being being a registered political parties that can contest elections. So if an institution that is charged with the responsibilities of regulating political parties, monitoring the activities of the parties, says this party meet the constitutional requirement, what is the judge talking about? Except the judge is just shopping for reasons to deregister the political parties. Otherwise, the institution that is charged with the responsibilities of monitoring parties, activities, regulating party activities, conducting the elections, filing papers in your court to say that, look, this party made the constitutional requirement, so you have no business deregistering them. So, like I said, I think what the judge did can be described as judicial rascalities.
And that's what the appeal court says.
Exactly. So he's propelled by certain things that members of the public are not even aware. And I think I agree with my colleagues that the NJC should look at the activities of this man, because we've seen similar cases in the past where judge collect money from people and give judgment, and at the end of the day they create confusion within the political system. We've seen that in the past, and I think as we approach the general election, the election is just about 6 months away. So I think we should be very careful not to undermine this democratic process, because at the end of the day, if we are not careful, the consequences will be huge, and it will be very difficult for us to manage.
All right, let me bring in some of our reviewers online as well. Streaming live at Africa Independent TV. Victor Temba says, any government that has the willpower to reform our judiciary alone has solved 70% of our administrative and political problems. Between some judges and NEPA, which one is worse? That's Mike Omovidu asking. Anthony Toby says, soon you will hear that Justice Lifo has been recommended for appointment to Court of Appeal or Supreme Court. Okay. Alex Sanchez says, Alex, Bikono. Okay, I see someone writing to Mr. Iyobosa. It says, Okay, I can't find that now, but I see your reactions. We'll have to run to another conversation. Let's look at one more story from Daily Asset, Daily Newscraft, Daily Sun. It says, gunmen attack National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPSS, kill 2 soldiers, police officer. Simon Reef, more men.
Honestly, I get frightened when I hear our security personnel are being killed by these terrorists. Because if these people who are the armor bearers, who are the arm bearers that are supposed to protect us, and these men from the cave storming NIPS and killing them, it tells you there's a lot of things going on. And the need to review the security architecture has become imperative. I've always said this. We've always been crying that there is no enough boots on the ground. But if these gunmen simply walk their way to NIPS and then kill soldiers, then it is something very, very serious. I believe the security men are doing all what they can, but they should do more. So if people in the city, in Jos, because NIPS is right there in the city, a crowded environment, if these people can come there, I just think what will happen to people that are living in villages where our security men are not present.
You see, let me also quickly respond to that. Yeah, we have security challenges in this country, and we must also admit the fact that our security agencies are also doing enough. They're also doing, enough to also, tackle the issue. But you see, I think we should be very careful. I keep on using this word. We should be very careful. I'm talking to my colleagues in the media, the way we report terrorism, because if you look at the strategy, the strategies of these terrorists, they strike where they will get huge publicity the next day. Imagine that audacity, the temerity to go to NIPS, to want to attack the NIPS. They believe that by the next day they're going to get a front page headlines, publicity, and that's why they went there. And unfortunately, some newspapers gave them that publicity by celebrating the activities in the front page today.
You think it's celebratory?
Yes, yeah. But there's a way you can report it. Look at the way the Sun report the story, for example. Say FG moved to tighten security at borders at government attack NIPS. The story, the incident that happened is part of the story. But what they did here is to deny them that publicities in their headlines. Because that's the oxygen they need to commit more havoc. And that is their strategy. They want to strike in a place where they will get the publicity the next day. And that has been their strategy. And in terrorism, if you look at other countries that report terrorism around the world, what they do, they are not saying that we don't have security challenges, or they are not saying that they don't have security challenges. But what they do, they deliberately deny them that publicity the next day. I think that's exactly what so many of our colleagues can do. I'm not saying they should not report the event. I'm not saying that the public do not have the right to know what happened. But we must report it in such a way that we deny the terrorists the publicity they require to commit havoc, the kind of publicity that embody them to commit havoc. And that has been their strategies. I said it. I said some time ago, about some years ago, I went to Pakistan to study how journalists report terrorism, because we also have similar challenges in just like the Pakistans. And they have determined that whenever these evil men strike, that they are not going to give them that publicity. Rather, they would look at it from the effort the security is making to tackle the issues. And that has been their pattern, and that has been their strategies in reporting terrorism. I agree, Nigerians, we are new in reporting terrorism, but I keep on advising my colleagues that we should not report terrorism as if we are reporting entertainment. It's not helping our attempt, or the attempt by security agencies, to fight these people. We must recognize the fact that these terrorists are our common enemy, and there should be a united front to defeat them. It's not about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's not about the Chief of Army Staff. Or it's not about the Minister of Defense. It's about Nigeria. We must, first of all, rescue this country from the hands of this enemy.
Talking
before
about
we talk about politics.
Talking about the Minister of Defense, we do know that while he was in active service as a service chief, one of the things that he advocated was fencing our borders, because at the moment we have about 1,400 to 1,500 irregular clandestine routes used for illegal migration as well as smuggling into Nigeria. We have argued that terrorists, these guys are not Nigerians. They come in, but whether they come in or not, the fact remains that we have about 1,500 unmanned borders. Now the federal government is promising to tighten security over there. Border fencing was one of the things that General Christopher Musa advocated. Is that a way out, Simon Reef?
Well, I don't believe that is a complete way out of the issue, because we can deploy modern technology to look at what is happening in our borders. So at the end of the day, if you say you are going to fence your border, do you know they are huge, the whopping sum of money you will spend in fencing them all?
Should we consider the money over lives?
No, it's not the issue of money. I'm not telling you that. If you deploy modern technology, there is nothing that's impossible. Once you employ that modern technology, it looks at everything there. At a certain point, you leave people that can also always respond when there is a breach of it. But for you, at now, when everybody is screaming, there's no money, and you bring out so huge money, they're gonna, you know, it's thousands of kilos. I mean, no, it's not possible. So I will say what we need is the deployment of modern technology to monitor these borders so that they will be able to checkmate with everything that is happening there. That is just.
All right, we're talking about security at this moment. A story that my producer and I were reviewing it this morning before showtime. Al Jazeera Nigeria midweek. It says, family arraigned for impersonating bandit. Father, children, grandchildren accused in Ogun State. I mean, details of this story says a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old grandchildren picked the phone of their grandfather, called a potential victim, and say, send us money, we are bandits.
Yeah.
A 10 and a 12-year-old.
Yes, I read the story. It's about a grandfather who who gave his daughter, a 19-year-old daughter, a phone to go and charge.
Yes.
From there, they used it to call the person they wanted to get money from. Well, I'm very sure, I may not, I'm very sure that the grandfather simply wanted his phone to be charged. He didn't ask them to do that. But because it was his phone that was used in calling for that ransom, I mean, in that threat, of course, he is now been a part of those people that have been arraigned. The idea is maybe survival. But even survival for a 19-year-old and a 10-year and maybe 12-year involved in that, it tells you of the wrath. It tells you of the desperation to make money. And I've always said this. When you have a nation where people are just out to make money at all costs, because I get afraid when I see what this Gen Z, the new generation is all about. You know, in our time, we went to school, we were content with the little that was given to us. But children of nowadays, no. They are more, they have disappeared. I mean, they are influenced by what they see in social media, by their peers group. You know, they want something that even their parents can afford. You know, when we went to school, our parents would call us, hey, remember the son of who you are. We are poor, just be sincere and be content. You no longer have that because children now are more influenced by what they watch on social media, what they see in Hollywood films and any other thing. So it tells you that there is this decadence that society must arrest.
Yobo, sir, these guys, the 10-year-old and the 12-year-old, they could have caught to say, I'm an Otedola, I'm an Elon Musk, I'm an innovator, I am anything else. But bandits,
Well, it is part of the moral values that Simon Raven is talking about. It's very unfortunate. And that is kind of something we find in our society today. Nobody see people as their role model. Nobody talk about, oh, Shoyinka is my role model. Oh, this man is my role model. They don't look up to these kind of people again. They want to make money at all costs. You see, it is part of the effect of the social media that we are talking about in our country, where, for example, some parents allow 11 years old, 12 years old to be using phone and be on social media, TikTok, creating content and all that. So it is not helpful. I mean, it is not helpful to our societies. Look at the resolution of the Prime Ministers of the UK recently, who said, if you are above 16 years old, I'm talking about the UK, it's civilized democracy. It's about if you are 16 years below, you will not be allowed, to make use of your phone for social media activities. I mean, it is not because they want to do it. It is because they have suddenly discovered the consequences of allowing young people to use phone for social media activities. It's not helpful at all. And it's also helpful in our country today. I think we should find a way to also begin to look at that. And if we must do it, the family as an institution has a huge role to play in monitoring our children. Because at the end of the day, look at the 11 years old or 10 years old, he's not going to be charged for any criminal activities because he's on that age. It is the father that will bear the consequences.
The
grandfather that will bear the consequences.
So they are using section 516 of the Criminal Code Laws of Ogun State, 2006.
Yes, so it is the grandfather and the father that will now bear the consequences of the action of their little kids, 11, 10 years old. They don't. It is assumed that they don't know what they are talking about. But the father, for allowing them to use his phone to commit such alleged criminal, it is the father that will bear the responsibilities. And that's why, as family, we must be very careful. We must monitor the activities of our children and ensure that at all times we know what they are doing and keep on correcting them, keep on letting them know the implication of what they intend to do or what they want to do.
All right, someone writes to you, Emmanuel Chinedu. It says, Oga, don't blame the newspaper for reporting the incident. It's good they report for the government to sit up. Also, stop telling us that the president is not aware. And then Emmanuel Diala also says, the Yobosa should know that if main media do not report terrorism, social media platforms will report it. Government and security agencies should be held accountable. How combatant ready is our security? So we'd like to thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm a professional journalist. I'm talking from a professional point of view. He might not understand what I'm talking about. But you see, he's looking at it from, maybe because he's bitter about what is happening in our society. But I'm talking about the implications of celebrating the activities of terrorists in the front page, or even in the social media platform, for example. It's not helpful in our war against these evil people.
All right.
In fighting terrorism. It's not helpful. And that is the point I want him to know. It's not that I'm preventing journalists. I'm a journalist. I've been practicing journalism for close to about 36 years. I've not done anything apart from journalism. So I like journalism, and that's the only profession that I know since I started working almost about 35 years ago. So I'm not stopping them, but I'm saying that we should be mindful of the implication of the way we report terrorism, and that it's not helping the security agencies in this war against security.
All right.
Terrorism.
Iyobosa Wajere is a senior editor with This Day newspaper. Simon Reef Musa, columnist with Leadership newspaper and a senior journalist. Thank you both for your useful insight on our newspaper review today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We take a short break now, and when we come back, we shall look at ADC and the 4 other parties that appeal court says they should not be deregistered. Stay with us.
As they break the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should sit back and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it.
All right, thank you everyone and welcome back to the program. Straight to our first conversation this morning. We understand that definitely is yet another twist to Nigeria's political party deregistration saga, because just yesterday we had the appeal court say that the lower court led by Justice Peter Lifu was wrong in delivering that judgment to say parties as the ADC, ZLP should not be registered or considered political parties. And against that ruling, yesterday in a unanimous ruling of a three-man panel of the appellate court, the trial court says in delivering the June 15, 2025 or 2026 judgment, they describe it as a decision as a breach of subsisting order of the Court of Appeal. In fact, the higher court says this is judicial rascality and no regard for hierarchy. So we'll have our guests. We told you we had them yesterday. Thankfully, we have a need to bring them back. George Itodu, legal practitioner, has joined us in the studio. Also, we have Patrice Akwara, Country Director, New Africa Rising Initiative. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you. And welcome again to the program.
Good morning, and thanks for having us here.
Very well. George, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Let's get your immediate reaction to the Court of Appeal ruling to this.
It was a welcome development. The Court of Appeal saved us from judgment that tends to strangulate political freedom, judgment that has chaotic tendencies, judgment that tends to undermine Nigerian democracy. Yesterday, I made it clear that judgment was not found on the Constitution, it was not found on any law, it was not found on evidence, it was not found on public interest, it wasn't even found on morality. Rather, that judgment was found on judicial insubordination. That judgment was found or tainted with agenda and motives, because there's no way Nigeria, being a democratic nation, would stand and watch that kind of judgment fly. Court of Appeal did the right thing by saving the nation, saving the negative tendencies that could have ordinarily followed that kind of judgment, because that judgment is not law by any standard of imagination.
When you say it's not law by any standard, what the lower court is basing its judgment on is Section 225 of the Constitution that empowers INEC to deregister political parties who are unable to produce winners from elections. So,
Now, I made it clear yesterday that what the law requires is that the political party satisfy one of those conditions. It's a disjunctive requirement. That one of those conditions. And I outlined that apart from, is it AC also, the rest, all, there are evidence to show that the rest in law all met that requirement. Then I said, assuming self, that is in terms of law and constitution. But on evidential ground, these parties have not even put any evidence, placed any material fact before this court to warrant that kind of judgment. I said it yesterday that for you to have proved that a party does not qualify under Section 225A for registration, you have to tender all the INEC results comprising all the elections in Nigeria, House of Rep, House of Assembly, Senate, President, and governorship. You have to place it before the court, for the court to go look at them all and say, okay, this party had won none from all this. You also have to place the State Electoral Commission election result for chairmanship and councillorship across the whole state in the federation. That was not done. That was not done. I also talk about the party having no local standard to even approach the court. They have no vested interest there. So that judgment to me in totality was faulty. Then, and above all, that is why the Court of Appeal used the word judicial rascality. Why would the Court of Appeal say stay proceedings? So who would give him that confidence? Who would give him that power to overrule the Court of Appeal and went ahead to give judgment? Then in case of, is it APP? There is a Court of Appeal, Court of Appeal judgment, 30th of March, validating their registration. You took it upon yourself, and that judgment was placed before you. You took it upon yourself, overruled the Court of Appeal, and ordered INEC to deregister them. Does it make sense? Is that law?
All right, let's come to you, Patrice. We'll take your reaction to this. And how easy did you see this decision? So the Court of Appeal has said to the lower court they have to stay further action on this one, pending the determination of appeals before it, which would be heard October this year.
That is, thank you. That's even the problem. Well, I've heard my learned brother. Now, let me give you, the truth of the matter is, if you know how many decisions of the Court of Appeal that has been overruled by the Supreme Court, you cannot be vehement about this. For me, it's a temporary setback to what the law says. I heard you.
Setback on whose
yes,
side now?
Yes, setback on what the law said. Because during the newspaper review, I heard you say it, and you sort of restated it. The law just, Section 225A of the Constitution says that INEC is empowered to do X, Y, Z, which is 25%. As a party, you must have 25% in presidential election. In state election, you must also win a state assembly, local government, or ward chairman. Now, when a party takes out a writ of mandamus and lays the law, attaches the law by way of affidavit, and you as the defendant, you should come up with your counter affidavit and annex to it your results, that is to say, your certificate of return issued to you by INEC. Because what we're talking of is of the law, what they brought as a question for the court to resolve by that writ, and to compel INEC to do a public duty is a duty provided under the law. it is you now who will now, you that the defendant will now have to come up with a counter affidavit and bring your exhibits as an annexure to say that, no, we made this, and what is the exhibit in question? Your certificate of return that you have won so election. You have won state assembly election, you have won local government election, you have also won, won councillorship election, because INEC issues certificate of return to all those who win. Do you understand? So if failure to do that and bring it before the court will not just go and start shopping for evidence to back up on your behalf. That is number one. So by the time, and another thing also, when the matter was going on, the judge has also set down his date for judgment. And without any interlocutory application, there was no interlocutory ruling. They just asked the court to stay, they just went and they wanted to arrest the judgment and just asked the court to stay delivering judgment. Does that make any sense? And then they proceeded to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal acceded to them and now set the next hearing for October 23, something that is happening in May. Don't you see that the mischief is even coming from them? That's the way I look at it. That's just the way I look at it. So, because if parties are before a trial court, and maybe there is a question that the trial court rules one way or the other against you, you can proceed to the Court of Appeal, even when the substantive suit is still pending. But there was nothing like that. The court had already finished, they have finished taking the processes from the parties and set aside a date to deliver judgment. And all of a sudden, they just went to the Court of Appeal, asking the Court of Appeal to ask the judge to stay delivery of judgment.
All right, you are talking about dates and months and
yes.
Schedules at the court. I will come to you. The dates for hearing of this appeal has been brought forward to June 25, 2026, of course. What are the implications of this?
The implication is that whatever appeal went there will be heard, and the court will give judgment. Now, I tend to disagree with certain facts stated by my colleague here, and certain positions of law. It has never been the law in Nigeria that a defendant will be the one, I get my point, to come before a court to prove the case of the plaintiff. It is the party who went for order mandamus, writ of mandamus, that will have to establish before that court that there are sufficient grounds and prove those grounds for the court to be entitled to that order. It is not the defendant that should now bring their result. No, it is you who is asking for that order that will produce those results to say that in all these results, none of this person won in any of the election. It is not the defendant who is on his own that you brought to court to come and show the court why it should not be disregistered if you have not established that of your case. Then secondly, on the issue of the appeal, for God's sake, there was a preliminary objection before that court, and which was a valid objection. A non-juristic party instituted an action. Then later, tried to regularize it without the order of court, without an amendment, without a leave of court. And an objection, it was then challenged before before Justice Lifo. He made a ruling automatically amending that process without him himself granting leave at the initial stage. They went upstairs. Now, matter is before the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal now said, okay, stay proceeding. Let's look at what is before us. And you said, no, I'm not bigger than the Court of Appeal on assurances of one or two persons. And you're not telling me whether the Court of Appeal gives a long date or not. A party can always approach the Court of Appeal to vary those dates. And remember, there was a motion in that same matter before the Court of Appeal that was heard yesterday. If you felt the party, I'm sure they were in court, they heard when the Court of Appeal gave that adjournment. If they wanted the court to vary that date and come to an earlier date, they know what to do. If you felt it was too long, you agreed, you didn't contend it, you did nothing at the Court of Appeal, then you now went to Federal High Court to say, oh, because the date is too long, let's disobey it. Whether the Court of Appeal is right or wrong, that judge is bound to comply with the directive of the Court of Appeal in the same matter.
Based on hierarchy?
Based on hierarchy, based on law, based on constitution. So what he did, to me, that's a judicial insubordination. It's unknown to our law. It's an abuse to judicial hierarchy.
Are there consequences to this?
Of course, surely. Because if this go unpunished or unattended to, the implication is tomorrow. Judges may now be influenced by politicians to even look at Supreme Court judgment and say, no, I will not follow it. The question is, what is now the essence of judicial hierarchy or the doctrine of stare decisis? If a judge no longer recognizes, that is why I've always fought against political intervention on judicial matters. Because this is just the beginning. Left for politicians, they can make the court room like a police station where anything goes. And that is what we must stand against. If any other institution fails, the judiciary should not fail, because that's the balance stick for every other thing. That's where we can all run to for justice. If our court now look like police stations, then what do we have a country?
All right, we're looking at the 5 political parties, ZLP, that's the Zenith Labour Party, yes. Action Alliance, AA, ADC, African Democratic Congress, as well as Action People's Party, APP, and I think AA2, Action Alliance. When we look at it, although the ADC is the one making the news right now, apparently people have assumed, oh, it's because of the political bigwigs who are there, the likes of Atiku, Amechi, and then Obi has left, of course. But where does this, no stay of execution order, where does it leave the political parties as well as INEC? We are aware that the law allows INEC to publish the deregistration notice on official gazette as well as on at least 2 national dailies. But the political parties who are aggrieved also have a window of 14 days to appeal this, which indeed has happened. But where does this go ahead, don't go ahead, leave political parties and the commission? I have to go to him, please. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, before I go to what you're saying, what the principle of law my learned brother has said, which is correct, it does not apply to this case. Some of the things you have stated, which are the accurate principles of law, does not apply to this case at all. So he is just misapplying things that, because the judge stated, but we leave it for the Supreme Court to determine, because obviously the matter will be appealed to the Supreme Court. So most of the things he said has no basis, because you cannot base your case on the weakness of your opponent. You should base your case on the strength of, you win your case on the strength of on the strength of your case, not on the weakness of your opponent's case. That's exactly what is trying to establish. Hold on a bit. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. So you must do what you have to do to ensure that you win your case, not on the weakness of your opponent's case. So that aside, so from your question, what I can respond to your question is simply that, all these processes that are still going on, all of the parties have statutory time given to them by INEC that is managing the electoral process. So assuming we are talking of ADC now, when it comes to other parties, they will also have time to go to appeal whatever decision of the court that has come up. Now that they've appealed, they've gone to the Court of Appeal against this particular decision. Obviously, what the Court of Appeal decided yesterday, they can also, by today, go to the Supreme Court to appeal against it. You understand? So that's what I said. Let's not run too fast. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court will make a final determination. And then by the time they make this final determination, the dashboard will be clear. We will now see what's on the dashboard and now pieces it. Because if you notice, it's just like when you go to court, the plaintiff will come and say his own. You think that the defendant doesn't have any case until he comes up with his own case. You now find out that the plaintiff's case is even on watery ground. So all the parties, whatever decision that the court comes up with or INEC comes up with, there are statutory timing for them to respond, and they will respond. But at the end of the day, even if a party have started doing something under INEC timetable, if there is a final determination of court, you understand, on the validity of that party being a registered political party, then that party can continue. But if
okay, please add this to your thoughts.
Yes.
Someone who is watching us at Africa Independent TV on YouTube,
yes.
RRD says, direct question, kindly ask your guests on the red cap to tell us, I had to look which one of you is wearing a red cap, to tell us who is making sense among the Federal High Court and Appeal Court in their pronouncement. Number two, is it the defendant that ought to provide evidence or the accuser?
Exactly. You know, like I said, this is what my learned brother is just saying, is when you go on a trial where you have to state facts. This is just this is a writ. It's like it's asking the court to interpret the provisions of the law. So you are not here to adduce facts. That is, the only person who can adduce facts is if the party taking out the writ, you understand, says you have not satisfied these constitutional requirements, and it's stated there, by your reply, you will now adduce and with a counter affidavit and also come up with your annexures to say no, because we are not talking of maybe a contract. We're not talking of a contract whereby I'm accusing you of a breach of contract and I have to supply the details, the fact of the breach of that contract, then you now respond. I'm saying that you have not satisfied this provision of the law because the court is the master of the law. So when you are now making your reply, you now come up and respond seriatim that this 25% in presidential election, we have satisfied it in this state, because that will be your counter affidavit, and then you now attach those things as your exhibits, as annexures. That is how it is done.
Judge, while he's been speaking, you've been making efforts to contain yourself. Could you now spill?
Yes, that principle of you succeed on the strength of your case and not the weakness or whatever, that is a principle that operates against a plaintiff in favor of a defendant, mostly in land and election matters. That you are coming to court, you should succeed on the strength, because you are the one who approached the court. It doesn't matter whether the defendant has strong defense or not. You must present your case. You are coming to court with an allegation that must be proved. You are not telling me, okay, come to court, lay blanket allegation. Then the defendant will have to now attach document to come and start proving that no, it's not responsible for your allegation. No, that is not the law. It has never been the law in Nigeria here, be it by writ or by any means or mode of commencing an action. It has never been the law, and it can never be. Then, on the issue of saying the Court of Appeal, trying to query the Court of Appeal that they were wrong, there's nothing wrong in what the Court of Appeal did. There's nothing wrong. I don't think Supreme Court will now frown at the Court of Appeal by applauding, by applauding the judicial insubordination carried out by a Federal High Court judge. Let's go there. When it's there, then we cannot, but as it is now, that is not the law. The Court of Appeal have the power to stay. And the Court of Appeal says, stay proceedings. And you now say, because the date is long, the judge should now empower himself to say, no, let me overrule the Court of Appeal. The date was given in court. Parties were in court. And remember, yesterday, just yesterday, there was a motion from the respondent to the appeal that Court of Appeal should set aside the order for stay that was to be heard yesterday, which means that they were quite informed with the whole procedure. Which means that they knew what they were doing. There was already a motion to set aside that motion for stay. That motion was not adjourned to October for hearing. That motion was adjourned to yesterday for hearing. to deal with the issue of stay from the Court of Appeal, fight before the Court of Appeal. So what is the interest of the judge?
All right, Judge, I'm staying with you. From your legal lenses,
yes.
There's a school of thought that believes that the court has no business ordering the deregistration of any political party because for them, that school of thought, they believe that INEC has the discretionary powers to decide that where do you stand in this, and how true is that school of thought?
No. It's primarily vested on INEC. It's primarily vested on INEC. If you look at INEC affidavit, because I went through INEC affidavit in that matter, INEC stated that these parties were duly registered, stated the reasons. That this one here, this one here, this one here. I went through INEC affidavit. Those were the material facts that were before the court. INEC exhibited those results. INEC themselves, not even the parties. Was that not enough? Now, about an issue where...
So does any court have the business? Does any court have the business to order the deregistration of any political party?
No.
I will come to you,
Excuse me. I have INEC affidavit on my phone. The INEC file.
So what does it say? The party
This has to do with the appeal.
Please, I will come to you. Let him land, please.
You're talking about the matter before the Federal High Court. I have INEC affidavit, counter affidavit before the Federal High Court. I went through it. Now, no, it's primarily vested on INEC to say, okay, this party qualifies, this party does not qualify. But situations where you feel that, okay, a party is not qualified and INEC has refused to register, nothing stops a person who is vested with sufficient interest. For instance, I said yesterday, maybe a political party, from approaching the court that, no, this, INEC has not complied. The court can now mandate INEC that, no, this party ought not to be registered.
Okay.
Kindly deregister it.
All right. Patrice, you wanted to react to that. Please put in your final thought on that because we have to run.
You see, that's the problem we have in our legal practice. The Constitution, the law states what the duty that a public officer should do, and somebody says discretionary, where the law says shall. Where the law uses that word, INEC is empowered to do something. It now states the conditions precedent before the performance. It's no longer discretionary. What is if it is discretionary, the law will say will or may. Then you now know that it's the performance of that duty is discretionary.
I think that takes us back to the conversation that the use of English in our Constitution has to be amended to. But we'd like to thank you so much. Judge Itodo, legal practitioner, Patrice Akwara, country director, New Africa Rising Initiative. Thank you both for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, from here, we'll take a short break, and when the program returns, it would be Kakaaki Social O'Clock. Stay.
Out you come.
With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 is here. Watch all 104 matches live on StarTimes, from the opening match to the final showdown.
And this time, it's not just watching, it's watch and win.
Subscribe or buy a StarTimes decoder and stand a chance to win the 10 million naira grand prize, plus many exciting prizes nationwide with subscription packages starting from just 4,000 naira. Recharge now via StarTimes app or visit any StarTimes office or dealer outlet near you.
StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Nigeria has survived everything, not because we are lucky, but because in the hardest moment, when the news breaks and the grief is raw, someone somewhere makes a choice.
To confirm before spreading panic.
to empathize rather than assign blame, to hold when everything inside said, poof.
For terrorism is not only the attack that sparks our outrage. Terrorism is also the choices that follow, the ones that feed division and erode the bonds of nationhood and patriotism that hold us together as Nigerians.
Let us choose to defeat terror, one division at a time. Take a pause. Choose Nigeria.
Let's all unite against terror.
Out you come.
With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Kakaaki Social. I am Chidera Izudoi. Now, Nollywood veteran actor Emeka Ike is suing INEC and Lere Olayinka for a whopping 10 billion naira. The actor alleges that his voter registration information was released without his consent, calling it a violation of his privacy. Now, the courts may have the final say as the high-profile case sparks conversations about data protection and personal privacy in Nigeria. Let's see how netizens are reacting to that. Now, Samuel Jadon is saying, if not that Nigeria is a country of particular concern, there should be a general fight for everyone, because who knows the next or another victim that their personal information may have been leaked. It shouldn't be taken lightly. This is a serious issue because it seems we aren't safe. Even an individual will have access to INEC server. And another one says, it's like Nigeria is on a suing spree. People suddenly want to use the law when injustice they ignored suddenly comes to their front door. You all watched the Nigerian judicial system destroyed and lost every form of confidence, and you all acted like you were blind and death. But now the justice has met you. You are looking for the law. Sorry, whatever has been done to you has been done, and nothing will happen. This is the state of the nation, and injustice has a way of knocking on everyone's door. And another user is saying, serves them right. I wish more Nigerians can do the same. The exposure of Ike's details is enough proof that our information entrusted in the hands of INEC isn't safe. We have one more reaction from Lord, who says, bam. Emeka, beg, no let them bribe or threaten you. Stand up and let's see if Nigeria still has its judiciary system. Now, big changes may be coming to Nigeria's telecom sector. The Nigeria Communication Commission, NCC, has begun a comprehensive program review of telecom pricing in Nigeria for the first time in 8 years. Now, this move is aimed at updating industry's rates to reflect current economic realities, rising operational costs, and advancement in technology. Let's see how netizens are reacting. Is now in full gear since they have said our telecom pricing is too low. Trust our loving government to increase it to more loans can be given to share to millions of Nigerians we can't even trace. And in the same line, another user is saying, is calling out the Communications Commission and says, can you enforce the Europe and UK style of mobile subscription where you buy data and that will include unlimited calls and text messages rather than people buying data separately and airtime and these calls separately? I believe we should start reducing the burden of communications. And continuing in the same line, Ileri says what they should have done years ago. Now, all of a sudden, they are interested in it. They know what they are doing. That's all I would say. Okay, and Bolos is saying review, as in to reduce it or adjust it. They should just specify their intentions to Nigerians, please. Okay, now finally, after 8 years, the pricing review may be necessary. But before asking Nigerians to pay more, the telecom operators and regulators should explain why service quality still falls short despite billions spent by consumers every year. Now, moving on. Political commentator and former presidential aide Reno Omokri has responded to singer Davido after their recent online exchange. Now, Reno revealed that he was shocked by what Davido described as an insult from the Afrobeat star, saying he never expected such remarks from Davido. The outspoken commentator defended his position and expressed disappointment over the singer's reactions, adding another chapter to the growing social drama. Now, as fans weigh in on this controversy, many are watching closely to see whether these two public figures will settle their differences or keep the online feud going. Let's see our social media reaction. So this was Reno's tweet that was trending yesterday, and Davido made a very interesting comment. Go on his Instagram page and see it. I will not say it. Now, Aya is saying this is the point some of us have been making. Don't give publicity to terrorism, because the publicity is the very thing terrorists badly want. These evil guys are constantly checking the news and social media to see coverage on their exploits. Nothing gives them happiness like seeing their attacks dominating the airwaves. Some people wrongly think that when you tell them not to publicize terrorist activities, you are trying to defend the government. It is far bigger than that. And Olate Demu says, your comment is disappointing. That he's referring to Reno. Any reasonable and compassionate person should be concerned about the state of insecurity in our country rather than defending those who have failed to address it effectively. How long will we continue to pretend that all is well while it is not? And another user from Oteyemi says, Davido putting the names of the abducted Oyo school children and teachers on a jacket and publicly displaying the bring them home message on an international stage was indeed a performative act. This is someone who claims to be close friends with Sheyi Tinubu. In other words, he has direct access to the president. If you're truly close to those who can make a difference, why not use those channels to advocate privately and push for action? And our final user is from Yakubu, who says, sir, I'm truly a fan of the gospeller, that is Reno. But this right here, no joy. Imagine it was that beautiful daughter of yours. Sha, yourself no go keep child for Niger. It shouldn't be. May it happen to you, sir. You have changed a lot. What happened to you? So Reno came at Davido for the whole jacket he wore during the FIFA opening ceremony of the abducted Oyo girls, school children and teacher, and it has been buzzwords between Reno and Davido. But let's continue. In a bold security move, the Katsina state government has ordered the immediate closure of all POS businesses and commercial phone charging centers in Matazu local government area and Musawa local government area of Katsina state. Authorities say the directive is part of the ongoing effort to tackle insecurity and disrupt activities believed to aid criminal elements operating in the affected areas. Now, residents and business owners have been directed to comply immediately as security agencies intensify measures to restore peace and protect lives and property. Let's see how netizens are reacting. Now, Richaba says, you mean the state government has no way of following the money to trace the account used and make arrest? Is the government going to provide alternative means of livelihood for the business owners told to close their shops? Okay. Now, Patig is saying it isn't a convenient decision, but I'm sure he did it for some good reason. POS is used to deposit and transfer cash, that's ransom, into accounts which is untraceable, enabling them to move around without having to carry the stacks of cash. And another user is saying, what's the alternative businesses for these people? Yes, you are curbing monetary exchange, aiding banditry and kidnapping, but at the same time, creating joblessness and idleness, which would further propel people into immorality. And the final user in that story says, no light, the little effort the people are making to help their situation, you're against it. What's your plan? What's the alternative? In such a world of digital security, how do you want them to communicate? Imagine closing POS business. But then, a heated moment unfolded during an interview when journalist Rufai Oseni pressed the NDC presidential candidate, that is Peter Obi, on how he would want to tackle insecurity if he were commander-in-chief of Nigeria. Let's see this video.
Security. You cannot do all of this you're saying without security. Our kids are in the bush. If you were commander-in-chief, what will you do with our kids being in the bush and our teachers beheaded? General Rabi, in fact, about 3-4 generals were killed. If you were commander-in-chief, what would you do?
What you say again is, what you say again, you start telling me, how are you going to do it?
How?
I will not tell you.
Why?
But be rest assured.
Because Nigerians need to know.
No. Nigerians are not asking that. It is people who don't know what to do. Commitment. I fought criminality in Anambra State. Go and ask people, head on. You must show commitment.
Is it commitment that solves problem of criminality?
Commitment solves the problem of everything.
Okay, you think President Tinubu is not committed to solving the problem?
Well, I don't say there's a complicity somewhere.
But this talk about, I'm happy you talk about complicity.
Yeah.
This talk about complicity, even Goodluck Jonathan said the same many years ago, that there's a complicity somewhere.
So when you come in, you deal with it.
How will you deal with it?
I said I've done it in the past. Just go and ask people. When I came into Anambra, even the famous kidnapper Evans said I sent them out of Anambra State. He said in his interview, go and check his interview. He said, Peter, we sent us out of Anambra State. Everybody left. It's one government. It's either I'm in charge or they're in charge. One person must be in charge.
One person must be in charge.
That's what I told him in Anambra State.
Are you saying that the current government is not in charge?
I said one person must be in charge. We declare war. If you're ready to lead, you must be ready to die. If you're not ready to die, go home.
Are you ready to die for Nigeria?
Yes. Tomorrow, if I'm outside this country and there's war, I'll come back. I'm a Nigerian. I've never had any reason to have any country's passport. I lived abroad for years. People collected different passports. I've never taken it. God created me a Nigerian, and I'm ready to die here. We cannot have a non-state actors take over the state. It's not possible. We used to have military that kept peace all over the world. Our military were able to help to keep peace from Europe to Sudan to Liberia to Kuwait to everything. What will change? What change will find?
Okay, well, oh well. Let's see how netizens are reacting to that. Now, Biba is saying, why is Peter Obi always saying, I will not tell you? A journalist asked him a straightforward question about insecurity and what he will do as commander-in-chief. And his response was, I will not tell you. Now, Nigerians are not asking for military secrets. We just want to hear your ideas and know whether you are capable of leading the country. If you want to be president, at least give people something they can assess. Okay, and Chidebere is saying, Obi is too intelligent, eh? He knows that even Tinubu will grab the idea of how to tackle insecurity from him, and that is why he refused to expose his strategy. This man too sweet. And another user is saying, he mentioned that he's ready to die for Nigeria if that is what it takes to fix insecurity. And he also mentioned that he doesn't have any other passport apart from his Nigerian passport. FYI, Tinubu has a foreign passport. Do you think a Nigerian president who owns the passports of another country will be committed towards solving Nigeria's problem? Example, insecurity. And the final reaction from Ruth is, Obi doesn't know, and he has no strategy other than the shoot-at site he did in Anambra. What else? That order led to SARS cruel oppression in Anambra State. The extrajudicial killings, insecurity took over his state. Was his deputy governor not kidnapped and killed at the time? Well, well, well. And that's our quick roundup of today's biggest stories. I am Chidera Isidore. You can reach us via the social media handles displayed on the screen. See you same time tomorrow.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns, and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces. Salute their gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Out you come. With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
No worry, he said go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you, they use money point?
Of course now, they use money points.
Confirm.
Money point, made for your progress.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe we got federalism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says,
but who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT
GTBT, whatever.
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something million MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
All right, everyone, welcome back from Kakaaki Social. On the program, if you joined us from the start, you remember we told you that from that hard conversation on politics and court, we'll be doing something light, and that will be as we count down to the Igbo Nwere Madu Awards 2026. It's an award given to persons who have found notable, positively contributing to the community and societies at large, whether you're in business, trade, investment, politics, education, humanitarian, development sector, anything. And it's not restricted to persons from the Igbo extraction only, but extended to people seen as friends of Igbo people. So we have the convener joining us in the studio, Kalu Chijoke, as well as the Director, Policy and Planning, Chimam Pam Anyam Pam.
It took you time. You studied the name.
I had to master the stresses. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Welcome to the
Thank
program.
you. God bless you.
All right, we have to start with the convener because this is your brain, your baby. Tell us about Igbo Nwere Madu and what the corporate objectives are.
Okay, good morning, Nigerians watching, wherever you're watching from. My name is Kalu Chijioke. Ononekuro Rankizizi, one of Mboma, Emi, Imo States. Now, Igbo Nwere Madu Award is actually a project that started 8 years ago. We conceived the idea. We looked at the fact that we've had states from the Southeast having events, awards, and all that. And we said, no, I think it's time for us to come together as one, as Ndi Igbo, as Igbos, to celebrate our illustrious sons and daughters that are actually doing well in various fields. So that's the essence of this. But then this edition, we're going to be adding a lot of culture to it. There are a lot of cultural displays. Now we have Igbos in all spheres of life doing amazingly well, you know. We have them in the real estate, we have them in the banking sector, healthcare, you know, and they're doing very well, even in diaspora. We have Igbos everywhere. Like we always say, if you go to any place you don't see an Igbo man, take off. You have to run. And it's time for us to celebrate Ndi Igbo. It's time for us to celebrate that Igbo man, that Igbo woman, whom the world has not actually appreciated his efforts, his strength, his resilience. Yeah, this platform is there to celebrate such personalities. That's the idea. And of course, part of it is that we're celebrating the Igbo culture, which we call Omenani Igbo. The Igbo culture, that binds us together, that holds us, that makes us Onye Igbo, that makes us an Igbo person.
Okay.
Yes.
I enjoy listening to Igbo songs, even though I don't understand it very much, yeah. And I know that sometimes when we want to praise somebody, say, Onye werea were madu. Like, that's where I get to that person. So when I saw Igbo were madu, it looks like, okay, Igbo gets people, right? That's the idea. Yes. I got it. You have to award me. So I'm coming to you, Chief Aman. Yeah. So as the Director of Policy and Planning, give us who is qualified for receiving this award and what criteria have you used to determine the recipient?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, we decided to detach ourselves from politics. But that's not to say there are no people who are doing well in politics that should earn this beautiful thing. So we took our own independent, because after nominations, we just really want to get anybody on board. For instance, I may have to say it, about 30 years ago, AIT or Dark Communications had a program on Igbo, both radio and television. And they've sustained it. Mind you, the owner and the founder is not an Igbo man. But because he wanted the unity, for us to have the African experience, he decided to create that, and he sustained it over time. So who says AIT or Dark Communications cannot, earn such accolades, and then the party? Secondly, there are other people who people know very well. If you mention Theodore as the Governor of the Year, nobody would doubt you. They won't say, it is manipulated. Nobody would say that. But if you say somebody in the banking section that is done well, you call her Dora of the Zenith Bank, you will not say she's not doing well. And the same standard all over. That's what we have chosen. We planned it. I told them when I joined this bandwagon that I cannot put my hands on things that will not work. And people will, in the end, because integrity matters, will say, why do people do this? Oh, you have given it out to people or your friends. Some of them, most of them are my friends, no doubt about it. But yet, we didn't give them. So I think sincerely, what we have planned is to make sure that an Igbo man who is somewhere unsung heroes will bring them up and to do something. Mrs. Queen Dillion of Women Bank, very wonderful young lady. But she's doing very, very well. Now, they say people should go home and work and all that. I miss what everybody's thinking that they come. We have people like a Links, they're all doing very, very well. In the petroleum sector, we have a Jim Okolo is also doing pretty well in the petroleum station, and unsung heroes. We have so many of them that are doing very, very well. So what we did was to, it took us so much time.
How much time?
Actually, I must tell you,
it's like 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 years we've been consistently on this project. And then we wanted to do it last year. I said, look, last year we were not too sure because some of the names, we'll put it out on our website, we'll put it out for people to nominate. And when they nominated, we also went into Google to find out those people that nominated, if they are really indeed what people said they are. So we have really planned it, and we want to bring our culture, tradition into it. There was so much masquerade. We're not going to serve any foreign food there. Native food, oba, abacha, ewedu, ozuza, and all those food. And people will roast plantain, yam, and then with the normal otase, you see people eating it. So it's just a wonderful outing we have packaged, and it's non-governmental. And nobody has even given us anything to say, manage this. But we've been able to do it and come to us far. If you, you'll be there. Let me tell you, even your group managing director is entitled, because of what he has done over time, as an Igbo man who has really listened to that. I also have to tell you that people like our dear brother, my own president of the New Jeden, Ladi Lawal, blessed memory, is also posthumously mentioned, even though we're not going to give him an award, because he was able to develop the policy of Igbo-ness in him, even though he was a Yoruba man. God bless his soul.
Amen. You know, I was listening to you, and as you mentioned those food, I mean, I saw a table of all the foods in my head, and like, gosh. And every time I go to Wuse Market, Wuse Market is in Abuja, by the way, I look forward to abacha. Whatever I'm going there to buy, I have to return home with abacha, and I cannot wait to be at your award. But there are people who say that, but I hear you, because one of the things that you want to do is to reward people, exceptional friends of Igbo. That is to say that they don't have to be from the Igbo extraction. I was waiting for you to mention a name who is not from the Igbo extraction. I hear you mention past GMD, Ladi Lawal. So are there people who are still here, alive with us, who would also be benefiting from that? And also, when we hear of awards, we're quick to say, oh, this is partisan. You might appear as a non-partisan organization, but at the end of the day, you have people determining who wins what, and people actually buying awards. So I could give you 10,000 naira for you to give me this category of award. Are you addressing that?
Yes. I'll quickly tell you, and I mean it, that somebody like the chairman of education, who is former IGP Mike Okiro, you cannot tell me that even though he's a retired man, he will give me money to reward his good work he has done thus far. Nobody has, I told you earlier, nobody has given us any money. But what we're doing is that we're managing our little resources and putting them on ground and say, look, let us put it. Nobody buys it. If people were to buy it, we would have done this 2 years ago. We'll go look for money.
All right.
And then,
the convener wanted to say something.
Yeah, okay. The truth about it is we didn't come up with Igbo Mado Awards to sell awards to anybody. Like I said, it is based on merits. My director here just said something, that once the name is nominated, not even only us go to do a background check. You understand? We put the name out there. We have to search, make sure, apart from even going on Google to say, okay, who is this person, who is the personality? We ask, we go deep down. And most of these people, their work speaks for them. The likes of Archbishop Pine Leaf Real Estate. He's over there in the South, he's doing amazingly well. Supportive in all ramifications. There are Igbos who don't have that so much money to buy piece of land. But the project this man is doing is come, take land, pay small. If your papa get land, come. We'll see how we develop it. And of course, part of the message we're passing in this edition is the fact that we need to begin to think home. We have a lot of Igbos who have their establishment outside the Igbo land. And you check it very well, most of the youths are, let me use the word, jobless. And that is why a lot of them go into crime. So we're preaching the message, you an Igbo man, whatever you're doing out there, whatever establishment you're putting out there, think home. Remember there are people in the village. Remember, after everything you're doing in the city, in Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, diaspora, you will still come back to the village. And when you come back, you face some sort of insecurity. These are boys who are looking for jobs. And so we're trying to use this to send that message. Do investment in the Southeast so that our boys, our young ones will be gainfully employed and crime will disappear from the faces of Southeast. So these are messages we're passing. And that's what we'll call the theme of this year's one, Akurulo na Libo, which means let your wealth get to the village. Let your wealth go to down east. Whatever you're doing out there, make sure you remember home. That's the message we're passing.
All right. Could you, Director, speak further on the message, the impression this edition seeks to put out there? What message are you sending out to Indigbo, friends of Indigbo, as well as the Nigerian populace at large?
The message is, if you have 3 dresses, drop 2 in your village and come with 3 here. A Parole means let your word get home, like he said. So the message you are passing is that think home. If people like Innocent could situate his business in the village and miss all the economic challenges, they're fine. You see, we no longer go to farms. Everybody's drifting to the urban city because they really want greener pasture. Let us go back again and do that thing we're known for. People will come and call you, who are you, this Igbo man? You like money. Yes, when we make the money, you should be able to take it home. I know when, but check out Igbo people during the Yuletide. You see a lot of them going back home, and they will enjoy everything. Those things you enjoy in the village, we're going to bring them here in Abuja. And the non-Igbos who have really identified themselves with the ingenuity of an Igbo man, no matter how much you hate an Igbo man, he is there to help you develop your place. This is an Igbo man who will stand up in the morning, take up his waterproof or cellophane bag. Mommy, I am coming. After selling 1 or 2 things, let me go to the city. Less than 2 years or 3 years, he comes back to build a house. You know, so people are doing highly enterprising. Some of them, you will be shocked. There's a particular woman who's been frying her akara for the past 60 years. She's getting to 70-something. She will receive an award. The reason is that she's been consistently doing that and will use the proceeds from her business to train her children.
There's a lifetime achievement.
Honest lifetime achievement. So some people say, why would you bring something, a woman? You see, the son of nobody has to be somebody. And some people like us fish you out and tell the world this is what we've been able to do.
All right, and I think you're already leading us into the next thing that I wanted us to talk about in terms of the dignitaries. Are they still all nominees, or are they aware already that they've won an award or something? Because I wanted you to run us through the categories up for grab and those people who have picked them. Convener.
Okay, yeah, the basic thing we do is once someone is nominated, right? After the background check, we write the person and we inform the person, sir, ma, you've been nominated for such category of award. And from the whole pool of votes, you've won. We'll go deliver the person's nomination letter. If the person is not in Abuja, because we have our team scattered all over, basically we'll go deliver a nomination letter to the person, so the person will understand that, yes, this is real, not like what they will just say and it passes by. You know, so that's the basic thing we do. And after we do that, then we'll continue with our planning. Now, for the dignitaries that will come in, you know, just like Chief said, these are people who Igbos use, or we talk about them everywhere. In Igbo, we say, Ndi Moneje Mono. These are personalities we pride with. The likes of Okiro, the likes of Ato Eze, the likes of the Zenith Bank
Dame
Adora, you know, a lot of them. Now, you ask what the friends of the Igbo, which we call Ezienyi Ndi Igbo. We have Lembebe. He's not an Igbo man. He is from Taraba.
Yeah, Taraba, yes.
He is from Taraba.
And someone from Akwa Ibom.
We have one from Akwa Ibom. We have Wale from Kwara State. These are people who have identified themselves with the Igbos. They've done businesses with Igbos. And some of them, when you even get to their offices, you see about 60% to 70% Igbos working with them. And they'll tell you, I love Igbos, they are very enterprising. If I give an Igbo man my idea, he takes me up and we move and we deliver. And these are the kind of persons we give this.
All right, let's talk about the when and where of this event. When is it holding? Is it an open event?
Oh, it's very, very open.
And where?
At Merit House here in Metama.
Oh, in Abuja?
It's in Abuja here.
On Friday, the 19th. In fact, on a sad note, one of us who was partnering us in this business Dr. Padinjok passed on, so give him one, due respect, because it was going to be the section of, because we're going to discuss Akuruolo.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How will we be able to do that? So at Merit House, come over there on Friday, 5 p.m. Of course, we take up 5 p.m. broadcast time, but 4:30, a lot of people will be around and we'll get that. So many people, so many things to jive around with. Excuse me, my language.
I can sometimes I just try to get a mental picture of what will be happening on Friday. Friday is going to be an extraordinary day. We have masquerades from the southeast already in Abuja.
Interesting. Hope they will not flog anybody.
No. It's going to be a peaceful movement.
Okay.
We have masquerades they are already in Abuja waiting for Friday.
And Ogene sound.
Ogene guys, we're going to be having over 6 to 7 Ogene groups.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, that's the idea.
What seating capacity are you using?
We're using a 500 seating capacity, but it's going to be there's an overflow.
Yes.
Do you get? So of course we expect crowd. Because we've been doing, in fact, that communication, God will bless you.
Honest.
Yeah, because most of the things we've been doing, you guys have been supportive. We're in Repower the other day, and the whole world were calling, Chief, what is happening? Chief, I'm coming. Nabia, I'll be there. So, Igbos are excited. Even non-Igbos have been calling. I hope when I come, I'll eat abacha, just like you said.
Yes.
And the whole food was serving that day. We were very, very particular about that. It's strictly Igbo. Even for those who want to eat rice.
Is it free for all participants?
We have vendors.
We have vendors.
We have vendors.
We want to make it available.
You can't feed all. But then we have vendors so that it can always be available.
Yes.
Even if you want to eat rice, there's rice and ofako. The ofako is the traditional that makes it the Ibotic. Yeah.
I see. Now that we've spoken like everything about the Igbo Nwere Mmadu.
And then our daughters that married outside Igbo land.
Yes.
We are also honoring their husbands.
Oh.
For instance, if an Igbo lady and married, like Princess Tor.
Yeah, Guinea
Kator. She's married to Benue. And Benue's husband is coming with the Tiv people to blend. I said, why are you coming? If people see Tiv dance there, they'll think it's an African dish, but to God be the glory.
Okay, so I'm now looking at the conversations to be held there. Yeah. It's a celebration. Everyone is coming to unwind and celebrate the culture and supporters of the culture. But there have been conversations around the full political integration of the Igbos into national politics. Are we going to have conversations around that?
Just like Chief said, it's this Igbo Prestigious Awards Initiative is not a political body, and we don't have to associate ourselves with any political movements. It's strictly for Ndi Igbo. Whatever political background you have, you are welcome. It does not have any political connotation. As far as an Igbo person, it is your brand and you have to be there. You understand? We have our patrons and matrons who are also having very different political ideas. There are Princess Adeze, who is a matron. SN Okeke Ochendo is also one of our patrons. Arthur Eze is a live patron. So these are persons who have their own various political backgrounds and ideas coming together as one. So we're not going to be doing any political movement or discussions, no. Our message is Akuruno. Let your wealth get home.
All right, that sounds like a good place to thank High Chief Chimankpam Anyangba, the Director, Policy and Planning for the Igbo Nwere Mmadu Awards 2026. I'd also like to thank the convener, Kalu Chijoke, is also a chief. Thank you so much. Igbo Kwenu! Igbo Kwenu!
See you there.
Friday.
All right. Thank you so much, chiefs. To have a good time planning and executing. All right, everyone. From there, we go to entertainment and lifestyle. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am South Africa's Justice Minister has acknowledged that the country's immigration controversy is damaging its reputation across Africa, with businesses and entertainers already feeling the effects. She said some South African companies operating in other African countries have faced backlash, while several artists have reportedly lost bookings and performances. According to the minister, the situation is harming South Africa's image, promoting government efforts to reassure other African nations that South Africans are not xenophobic.
The areas that we would have to look at as well, that has come to my attention as well, it's our artists. Majority of South African artists perform on the continent, and many of them are seeing their gigs being cancelled. That's why part of what we are doing is to explain that South Africans are not xenophobic. South Africans are not calling, and we are also saying to South Africans, let's be responsible. And that's why let's deal with the issue of illegal immigrants. And that's why all the others are saying to us, South Africa, we understand what you are dealing with on the basis that these are illegal people, therefore enforce the law. And those that you have within the borders legally, please protect them like you protect South Africans. So that's.
She stressed that while the government will enforce immigration laws against illegal immigrants, foreigners living legally in South Africa must be protected and treated fairly. And she also urged communities to reject attacks on foreign nationals. Popular media personality Daddy Freeze has addressed the backlash over wearing black to the service of songs of late actor Alex Ikubo, despite a white dress code being requested. Speaking during an Instagram live, Daddy Freeze admitted that he missed the dress code on invitation and apologized for the mistake. He also explained that beyond oversight, he found it difficult to celebrate Alex's passing, describing it as a tragic loss due to the actor's young age and unrealized potential. Daddy Freeze also noted that in his culture, black is traditionally worn for mourning, which influenced his choice of outfit. While standing by his personal beliefs, he reiterated his respect for the family and apologized for not adhering to the dress code. The incident has sparked mixed reactions online, with some supporting his explanation and others insisting guests should respect the family's wish. The global music community is mourning the passing of legendary South African jazz pianist and composer Abdullah Ibrahim, who had died at the age of 91. Widely regarded as one of Africa's greatest jazz musicians, Ibrahim enjoyed a career spanning more than 6 decades, blending jazz with traditional African sounds to create a unique musical legacy that inspired audiences around the world. Tributes have poured in from fellow musicians, cultural leaders, and fans worldwide, describing his extraordinary contribution to music on the global jazz scene. Abdullah Ibrahim leaves behind a rich musical heritage that will continue to inspire artists and music lovers for generations to come. Temple of Mercy Prophetic Ministry celebrated a major milestone as it marks its 8th anniversary, themed God's Faithfulness. The celebration reflected on God's goodness, growth, unity, excellence, and gratitude over the years of ministry.
The election is coming. My candid advice for every Nigerian is to love God. The love of God has vanished in our midst. Where there's love, all this insecurity you are seeing will vanish.
We as mothers, as parents, for the past 28 days, we have been crying unto Jehovah for these children to be released. It is not easy. We know there are some mothers that have more than 2 in the den of the kidnappers. Even one, it's not been easy, but to the glory of God, God has helped us as a church, as a ministry, to cry unto God. Most especially in this time, in this period, we have been crying unto God for the release of those children. And I know that the God we serve will bring them out of the den of the kidnappers safe.
Members, friends, and well-wishers gathered to commemorate 8 years of God's grace and faithfulness. And the anniversary was a time of thanksgiving, worship, fellowship, and spiritual renewal. welcome to